Wow, guys, yesterday I made a video talking about what I believe to be my sports card addiction and was actually blown away at the response that I received from that video. I just wanted to first say thank you so much for all of those that commented, offered support, and then also offered tips and tricks, etc., as well as viewership that reached out to me directly. I apologize if I haven't gotten back to you yet, but I will get back to you. So thank you again for that. I wanted to make this kind of follow-up video, and don't worry, this won't be a 7-part series or anything. I'll kind of wrap it with this and we'll move on. But I wanted to offer somewhat of a context to the story yesterday, some additional context, because I think it also might be able to help others that are in the situation or could be in the situation in the future. I think that I've always had somewhat of an addictive type personality in the sense that when I was a kid, I remember just when dealing with stress, it was always sports. It was always, going outside to shoot hoops. I could shoot hoops for hours outside to get my mind off of things or just to kind of clear my head or whatever. I don't want to say that I was a complete lone wolf, but I was also okay just hanging out with myself, just playing basketball by myself, shooting hoops or whatever it might be. But I always got heavy into things, and I collected cards as a kid and comics, and I was so excited about that particular thing, and then I would move on to something else. When I was a senior in high school, the one time where it kind of bit me, I'll explain here, is I started smoking. I tried smoking cigarettes when I was a senior in high school, and at first it was like, no big deal. I can do this occasionally. Not a problem. No big deal. And a few of my other friends did as well, and it was kind of a social thing. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. If we go back to the late 90s, this was still the time where you had a smoking and a non-smoking section indoors in restaurants, and literally they were right next to each other. So the smoking section was literally spilling over into the non-smoking section. I know nowadays people think that that's absolutely crazy, just thinking about trying to eat as well as having that around you. And I'm one of those people, ironically enough. I can't stand the smell of smoke. Well, for many of my friends, they were able to kind of socially smoke. They would, we'd go out and have a couple of beers, and then you have a cigarette or whatever, no big deal. The next day you go on with your life. But for me, I wasn't able to really do that. I would buy a pack, and I probably smoked at the height probably like 10 to 12 cigarettes a day into my 20s. And it was constant. And I remember the shame that came with that and not being able to quit and just thinking like, I didn't really have any sort of control, but I was like, you know what? No big deal. And again, this is in my early 20s when you're invincible. You don't think anything of it. And finally, I got so tired of it, I wanted to quit. And I tried to quit cold turkey. Didn't work out. I'd always go back to it. And then I tried the nicotine patches and the nicotine gum and that sort of stuff. And this was a couple of years that it took going back and forth. Like, okay, I'm quitting this time. I'm quitting this time. And for those two, I know with smoking, it's like, man, how can you do that? It's just so disgusting. Don't underestimate the power of nicotine. Nicotine is very addictive. And so finally, I was like, you know what? I have to stop this. I have to. And I quit cold turkey. Finally quit cold turkey. And I had tried and tried for a long time. And I'd gone back to it and gone back to it. And then I was like, you know what? I can't do it. And I just stuck with it. I don't know what kind of snapped to where I actually stuck with it, but I haven't had a cigarette in 15 years. But I won't have red or cigar. I've been offered a cigar. Hey, let's go and have a cigar. Nothing. I won't touch anything because I'm so concerned about, oh man, then I'm going to get back into it again, which I don't know if I actually would at this point. I'm older, hopefully wiser, but I just don't even want to mess with it. So you're probably wondering, like, what does this have to do with cards? I'm getting there, guys. Chill out. So the point is that I've got a thing where I'm impulsively buying cards. That's what I was talking about in my last video, but it's happening it's habitual. It's happening every week, and it's something where I obviously don't have enough self-control. And so I talked about this in the video that I made yesterday. And when strategizing with my wife about it, we kicked around a few different ideas, the best way to kind of tackle it. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I would really like to do this cold turkey in the sense that I want to just have kind of a clean slate. Not that I'm never buying cards again, but just to kind of like snap that habit, to try to stop that habit, I'm going to just stop buying cards. Now, I do have a couple of cards I've already committed to. She's aware of them. We've already kind of talked through that. I'm actually happy. I'm going out on a great card. I'll put a picture of it here. I don't have it yet, but it's going to be the last card that I buy for a little bit, and it's a flawless Drew Brees auto card. So I'm very excited for that card, but that's going to be the one that I kind of end on for the time being. Now, I have goals, and there's kind of a bigger picture plan that we've talked about, her and I. But in the short run, the reward for staying disciplined on this is the Chantilly show in June. So I don't live very far away from that show, and I've never been to it, been wanting to go to it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be really disciplined throughout the year. And then at the Chantilly show and then the National at the end of July, that will be spots where I can buy some cards. And again, I'll talk to her leading up to that budget wise. What are we targeting? This, that, and the other thing. So we'll have a strategy around those shows. One thing I'm excited about, this plays into kind of the goal that I had coming into this year. I made the 2023, goals, as far as collecting goes. And I really wanted to add one or two Grail type cards. And the reality is this sort of plan helps me, it stops me from buying that $50 card, the $100 card, the $70 card, the smaller stuff. Again, I still think all that stuff is awesome, but it precludes me from being able to get into a larger item. And so this is kind of a forced savings in effect, while also tackling my problem. And so I'm excited about this plan. This is the short-term plan, but it also, hey, I'm putting this out here into the world. And so it's out there. And I think kind of putting this plan out there, the short-term plan, it kind of holds me accountable. I've now announced it to the world, essentially, my YouTube world, what my short-term plan is for this. And we'll have to see how it goes. I'll give you updates along the way. But I thought this was interesting. I know YouTube, it certainly doesn't encompass the thoughts of the hobby. I've talked about this in previous videos where I do have a fair amount of subscribers and we get views and all that sort of thing. But the reality is like 99% or more than 99% of the hobby doesn't give a damn about this YouTube channel or even know about it. They're doing their own thing. The one thing that YouTube can be kind of good for is to give you a certain data set to work from as far as like trying to figure out polling on stuff. And the reaction that I got on my last video, it showed me from just getting hundreds of comments from people and then multiple DMs about it from different people and also from females as well, from significant others. And I thought that was cool. Like there's literally like 1 or 2% of the audience is female. And some of them came out and actually said like, hey, thanks for doing this and that. And so fantastic. It's getting the conversation started and it shows you what topics I think YouTube gives you a glimpse into what topics are important in today's hobby world. It doesn't necessarily encompass the whole hobby. It certainly doesn't. But when you have enough people react to a topic, it shows you, okay, there's people in the same boat. There are others. It's not just me. I'm not alone in this. Since I started my channel and really how I built my channel is I've kind of thrown topics out there into the universe, into the YouTube sphere that aren't really talked about that much. And sometimes it gets a strong reaction, in part though, I think because it's just not being talked about that much. And this was one of those topics. So if this is kind of the starting point, a catalyst to talk about these sort of things that are important, one of my viewers actually made an excellent point, emailed me, Michael, shout out, but he said this could be very important, this topic, because this sort of idea of getting control of things for folks, it can also help create a more sustainable hobby as opposed to the flash in the pan, spend all your money, and then you flame out and then you're gone and you're like, wow, that sucked. Now, if you can get kind of some sort of a budget around it, like I'm trying to do essentially, then that helps to create a more sustainable hobby experience for new people coming in, which means they do stay in. So as Michael had said in the email, we always hear about growing the pie and growing the hobby, but really it's more about sustainability for folks and just understanding that, the big hits in the chase of certain cards are fantastic. But the reality is there's a million hits. There's a million cool cards. They're everywhere. And that's part of the issue. Unless you're just, a billionaire out here and you're able to just kind of throw money at all sorts of things, you'll never get all of the stuff. You just won't. And that's kind of a sobering thought, when you think about it. So it's just kind of a never ending. You're putting money at something, you're getting something cool, and then you get another thing that's cool, and then you get another thing that's cool. And while that's great, there's also got to be some sort of a balance to that as well. So again, I would really like this channel to be the kind of the starting point for this sort of conversation or the continuation. I know I'm not the first person to ever talk about this. That's kind of crazy to think about, but I haven't heard much about it recently. And maybe it's happened in other spheres, other, smaller groups, this and that, but let's get talking about it. Let's be talking about it more and be more aware of it. I certainly need to be more aware. And so thank you again, everybody that provided all of that feedback. You are appreciated. Stay healthy. Stay awesome. I will talk to you again later.